Hello everyone, it's Helen from Journaling Planet, and today I'm going to be showing you 3 ways of using lined paper in your junk journal ephemera. I've done many videos on this channel about alternatives to using scrap paper. A lot of us have some lined paper from notebooks and such just lying around, and if we've got this, we actually don't have to go out and buy fancy scrapbook paper. I'm going to show you a few ways in which you can use it. So I have 3 pieces of scrap card here. They're actually just the back of some greetings cards. I've covered the back in brown paper so that it covers up any personal messages. And I'm going to start with this larger piece of card for the first project. Way 1 with your lined paper is to, in your neatest handwriting, copy out a passage that is in some way meaningful to you. In my case, I have copied out the monologue from the Lana Del Rey video for Ride, which is one of her songs. It is one of those lyrics that just really, really speaks to my heart. So in my best handwriting, I have copied that out. And now I'm going to cut into this by covering this piece of card, which eventually will be a journaling card. Okay, so this is what we have when we cover the card and trim around the edge. And now my premise is really that I can use this as interchangeably as I could book page or music paper or brown paper, any of those kind of neutrals that we tend to work with in the junk journal community. So let me see if I'm right about this. First of all, you can use any embellishments you have in your stash, by the way, but I'm going to use some magazine images that I've cut out. People are always asking me, how do you use magazine images? And I tend to buy quite matte magazines that have interesting images in them, specifically for my junk journaling craft. I usually pick them up at thrift stores. Very occasionally, if I see one that I cannot resist, I will buy it new. But obviously I will read it before I cut it up. There's a whole video on how I harvest magazines, which I'll link to below, so you can see which magazines I tend to cut from and harvest from. Anyway, you can use stickers, you can use fussy cuts, you can use postage stamps, you could use image that you stamped and then cut around them to make your own embellishment. You can use anything that you have in your stash. You can use words that you've cut out of magazines, anything that you want. Okay, so I'm going to see how I get on with my images from my magazines, and I've also got this ticket I'd quite like to use. I'll see also if anything else takes my fancy to add in here, but it may just be these 3 elements. We'll see. I really like how this has come out, and I really feel like my theory that this can be used as interchangeably as book page or even, music paper or brown paper has been correct, really. And maybe some of you feel like, well, I think it would look better with book page, and that's absolutely fine. If you have book page around, by all means use it. But for those of us who are just working with what supplies we have nearby and maybe we don't have any book page, I think that this is a perfectly reasonable substitute. And I know as well that the lettering or the wording in the background has meaning to me personally, which is pretty cool. I do think that this needs some finishing touches around the edges with the old distress ink, so I'm going to do those right now. So I also decided to sew a little tab on top with some spare fabric that I had and just go around the edges with my sewing machine for the final touches. I really like how this looks. It's really original and it's going to be an interesting addition to my junk journal. It looks a little bit different from anything anyone else might create, and part of that individuality is my own handwriting in the background. So as many of you know, I'm very interested in creating unique things for my junk journal, and this one I think definitely fits the bill, thanks to just a bit of lined paper. Approach 2 is to use the lined paper as the backing for a tag on which I'd like to essentially decoupage some of this napkin, possibly not the whole square. I'm probably just going to go for that much and just see how it looks. So there's going to be a little bit left over at the side here. That's just the way it goes sometimes when you're working to a particular space. So I'm going to do this with some watered down PVA glue and see how it turns out. Okay, I'm now going to put this aside to dry. Then when it's dry, I'm going to trim around the edge and see how the whole thing looks. So here is the peacock tag, the decoupaged piece, all finished and dried. I had a lovely lady who watches the channel called Crystal send me some bright blue ink, and I made the most of it by going around the edge of the tag with it. And then I added a little bit of blue ribbon, just tied lots of different pieces around the main strip until I was satisfied with the width of that, and that is it. I didn't do anything else to it, and I really feel like the lined paper adds another dimension behind. It's obvious there's something else going on behind the image, and I really like that multi-layered effect. So that's definitely a win, and definitely one that I can't wait to put into my junk journal. In fact, I have a journal that is just blue things, and I think this is going to fit into there really nicely, even though it's actually going to take up a whole page because it's quite a small journal. So the third approach was to cover the tag in lined paper and then put a layer of gesso over the top. In this case, I had to actually use 2 layers of gesso. I don't know whether that's my cheap gesso or whether or not that's all gesso, but one coat barely dimmed the lines at all. And I really did want this to be a slightly different effect to the other two. So my idea was to do that to make it a more muted canvas. And I just thought what I would do is put some ink stamping over the top. You could use absolutely any ink or stamps that you have in your collection, but I haven't really used this rainbow ink pad that I bought. So I'm going to be bold and I'm going to give it a go live, not live, as close as I get to live on my YouTube channel. So we'll see how this goes. It's quite a difficult kind of ink to work with. So let's just see what happens. Not bad for a first attempt with this ink pad. I'm just going to ink around it and top it and see what we've got at the end. Okay, I opted for blue ink again. What can I say? I'm just on a roll with that at the moment. And I also just added a small fabric tab to the top because there was already quite a lot going on the card. So just a very neutral colour of fabric just quickly sewn along the top. All right, let's have a look at the 3 approaches all in a row and see which one we like best. Okay, looking at them side by side, I have to say it's quite difficult to choose. I like each of them for different reasons. Probably if I had to pick a favourite, it would probably be this one, because I'm on a blue roll at the moment, but I do really like the other 2 as well. I'm happy to put all 3 of them in my junk journal, and it's interesting to see how the same base material has made quite different effects in each case. Which one is your favourite of these 3, and what would you do with lined paper now that you've seen me have a go with a few ideas? I'd love to know any other ideas that you have in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all the likes and the subscribes. I'm still very surprised that anyone's watching, but it is absolutely lovely to have this community. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.